Welcome everyone to Tuesday Talks with FEO. Thank you for joining us, and I'm pretty excited about today. Today is our Reconnect Day with Louise Jackson. Louise is one of our board members and has been for over a year now, and we've been working hard together and talking a lot about different ideas of things that we can do. And she's very excited, as we are, to join us and to take over Tuesday Talks once a month and talk about reconnecting reconnecting tourism festivals in our communities. She is also the president of Tourism Barrie, and she is phenomenal, lots of fun, high energy. And I'm passing it over to you. So have a great hour, and we will talk to you soon. Oh, quick reminder, if you have any questions, you can either unmute yourself and ask or put it in the chat room, and Louise will take care of it and get the answer for you. So welcome to our guests, and I'm fading to black.
Thank you so much, Debbie. And it has been so great chatting, brainstorming, and laughing with Debbie quite a bit. So welcome to my first co-host as Tuesday Talks. And I'm very excited today to bring to you two partners from the Barrie area, as I am the president of Tourism Barrie. I would like to welcome Kathleen Trainer, who is the executive director of Tourism Barrie, and Iain Moggach, who is the artistic director of Theatre by the Bay. Say hello, Kathleen and Iain.
Hi.
Hi, very nice to meet you all. Thank you for this opportunity.
Thank you for joining us. We've had lots of talks too during this pandemic, Iain and Kathleen, and one of the main reasons that I came up with this Reconnect is because we all know how festivals and events and tourism connect us as a community, and we need to reconnect with those we haven't seen, and we need to connect with new people. So today we had this really cool partnership that came out of a COVID-19 pandemic where we couldn't be in theater, and our destination marketing organizations had marketing limitations. So this amazing partnership of Theatre by the Bay and Tourism Barrie came to fruition as part of the mandate was product development. So should we show the video, Iain, so people can understand what we're talking about?
Sure, that sounds great. Give me 1 second here.
I think it's a good time to show it.
I've been trying to write this book, a memoir really. So I came back here because I thought it might spark some inspiration, but maybe the universe drew me to you.
The Creator needed me here to think things out, to teach, maybe, to hope you can learn from my mistakes.
I've been invisible to the rest of the world for more than 90 years. Nobody really knew me. I made sure of that.
I suppose change really is the only constant, isn't it? And just when I start getting somewhere, you folks come calling. I knew it was bound to happen, else why on earth would I be stuck here all this time?
So that's giving me, yay! And that's so great. So let's talk a bit about how this happened and how the partnership started. Maybe Kathleen, we could talk a bit first with you about the mandate and sponsoring this type of product for Tourism Barrie.
Well, firstly, I love ghost tours. Any place I go, anywhere in the world, I go on a ghost tour. Quebec City has the best. So I always go on these ghost tours. Ottawa has them. Shout out really to Kingston's ghost tour because they really did a great job. So I thought that'd be kind of fun to have a ghost tour in Barrie, and to bring people into the downtown core. And so what was important to Tourism Barrie is that we're very fortunate that we're the recipient of the municipal accommodation tax that was brought into Barrie in 2019. And we felt that part of that municipal accommodation tax revenue source should be actually a part of a gig, have a product development to it. And we should be funding other tourism events or giving seed money to tourism events. Seed money to tourism events. Sorry, I think we have to let people in. And just do that. So we had actually thought of this idea before COVID, and we were working on the project and working on the concept of it, and then COVID hit, and then we thought, what an amazing opportunity to do a ghost tour, because it's social distancing, people can wear masks, you can't bring people into the downtown. So it started going from there. But of course, not being the creative one, we thought we would go to our very creative Theatre by the Bay that has been in existence 18 years?
20 years, 20 years now.
Yeah, 20 years in Barrie. So I actually used to take my son to the little Theatre by the Bay because of a great children program. So we thought we should partner with the theatre company, who also during COVID, had to reinvent how they're going to distribute, how they're going to do theater. So we funded Theatre by the Bay to develop this and to, really, I think the augmented reality, I can't remember how the augmented reality came to fruition because we kind of left it to them. So I'll let Iain take over. So we said we'd fund this project for them to write it and do it, and let's have it for the summer of 2020. So go ahead, Iain, you can, yeah.
And quickly, Iain, I know we're going to talk about this partnership, but please also talk about a theater company embracing augmented reality.
Sure, absolutely. Yeah. So obviously, our industry was one of the hardest hit. I mean, I'm sure we all understand that in the tourism world, but the performing arts, the idea of large numbers of people gathering in a single space to enjoy a singular piece of entertainment, those days are gone for the foreseeable future. So what we decided, so we were looking for ways to kind of still generate a theatrical experience, still connect with our audiences, still reach new audiences, and still tell local stories, which is ultimately what our mandate is. And sort of floating in the ether had been this idea of a ghost tour, partly like Kathleen and also our associate producer, Michael White, had been in talks about that before COVID. And then I also had like a brainwave of like, what if we did a ghost tour show and it was augmented reality, that kind of thing. And then those two ideas merged together and ultimately created what became known as the Ghost Watchers. So I came up with sort of this concept of how do we take the idea of a ghost tour that is a concept a lot of people are very familiar with and turn it into something that is theatrical. Right. So it's like, okay, so we probably want to make the tour part of the show. We want to make so that way there's like, as you go to each stop along the way, your sense of what's going on is heightened. And by the end of the experience, you feel like you've gone on a journey and discovered something as the ghost tour guide discover something. So that kind of thing. And then as well, through the augmented reality, creating individual stories, right? So each of the ghosts, as they share their story, they also, through the act of telling it, discover things about themselves, their own lives, their truths, that perhaps is part of the reason that they have been stuck here, looking for that unfinished business. So that sort of ultimately became the concept. In terms of the augmented reality, something that has been very exciting and couldn't have come at a better moment is the fact that augmented reality and a lot of mixed technologies like virtual reality and augmented reality is becoming increasingly more accessible, right? So when you look at, like, for instance, the production costs of theater production, you're talking tens of thousands of dollars in terms of the space rental, the costumes, the set pieces, all these moving pieces. That instead we just decided, well, let's use a large portion of that donation, that sponsorship that Tourism Barrie gave us, and instead invest that in augmented reality. And it ended up being quite affordable in the grand scheme of a theatrical production. Fortunately as well, we found a great partnership with an augmented reality company that was very willing to go on the journey with us, because it was new for them and it was very new for us as well. So kind of working it out, and as the show evolved, being able to adapt and collaborate with us on that, all were moving pieces in creating this show and this experience.
And the word that came up multiple times in there is partnership. And it shows, how essential partnership is to tourism. But one of the things I really loved about this, again, is in a pandemic, in a world where our arts and culture, our theater actors aren't able to work, you were able to provide job opportunity because of Tourism Barrie support and what you did. How many people did you employ and hire and work on this project?
Well, that's a great question, because there were multiple phases. there was the writing of the show phase, and that was 5 writers that worked with me, as well as our associate producer. So there's 7 right there. Plus, then there was the actors. So there were 7 actors that were working, that presented each one of the ghosts. Plus we had a hair and makeup person, a costume person. So there's 9 right there. And then we also had the tour component. So we had 4 tour guides through the Canada Summer Jobs Program. Also, again, actually partnership with Tourism Barrie on that one to get that 4th person. And that was that. So we're talking easily 20 people to make this show a reality. And that's also not to mention I think there were 3 augmented reality technicians that were working with us as well to, make it all happen. A videographer to film it and edit it. Like it was a lot of work, but it was fantastic to give jobs to people in the arts right now.
That's fantastic. And that made me very happy also when it was discussed at our board meetings. And Kathleen, again, your name came up multiple times, not only with the sponsorship, but with the summer student grants. I also know what a great strategic advisor you are and a resource. How important, Kathleen, is it for our DMOs in our regions to actually partner and do this product development with companies like Theatre by the Bay?
Well, I think it's very important. And I think also, as mentioned, that we were the recipient of a municipal accommodation tax. It really is for tourism and it is for product development. And I think it's important for municipalities that are actually collecting a mat, that they are spreading the wealth, if you will, and giving seed money and opportunities to create new products and new reasons to come to the destination. I also wanted to add one of the other importance was when the pandemic did hit, we felt, we didn't know how long the lockdown would be. And so reinventing and helping other organizations create a product that could be online. So this tour also started out with, can it be self-guided? Can you actually put it online and people can watch it? And if another wave came or if a pandemic comes again, we have the strategies, I guess, and the foundations to actually create a product to showcase Barrie without anyone coming here. Especially in 2020, you weren't really allowed to visit another destination. So how does a DMO stay relevant and keep promoting its destination without saying to come, because you're supposed to be at home locked down. So, this kind of tour and ghost tour and this project really also kind of checked off that box, if you will. So now we know how to do it should another tragedy, pandemic happen again.
Tornado.
The tornado that wipes out all of Barrie. We still have a mechanism to showcase Barrie. So that was also important. But we were the summer student. We're fortunate that we are a recipient of a summer student. And because of the lockdown, we usually get 3 summer students. And because of the lockdown, we actually didn't have any room in our office because we needed to spread it. So we thought, what a great way to give our summer students to Theatre by the Bay to be one of the ghost tour tour guides. Yeah,
that's great. And Iain, how was the excitement and what were the ghost tours received by the community?
They were extremely well received. I mean, the show, I think it was so beyond what so many people had expected, again, because the concept of a ghost tour is something that is really ingrained in a lot of people's minds because of, the amazing opportunities in places like Toronto, Ottawa, Quebec City. But the way that we use that as a foundation to tell a bigger story, tie it in with local history, provide room for different voices to share their stories and their perspectives, all made for a very well-received experience and a unique opportunity in downtown Barrie.
And what advice, Iain, do you have for somebody who would love to take on an augmented reality project, but a little overwhelmed and afraid of the technology and making it happen? What kind of advice do you have for them as a starting point?
Sure. Well, I mean, I guess the best one would be try out a lot of different versions. Like it's such a malleable and very new art form, like and mode of creative expression. So there's all sorts of different ways that the technology can be used. So, and really, in a lot of ways, you're limited by your imagination. I mean, when we were working with our AR team, I was like, oh, what if, could it do this? Could it do this? And having a collaborative partner sort of say like, yes, no, I don't know, maybe, well, let's find out, really, really created lots of creative opportunities. So try different versions of it. Learn, I think, a little bit about the various ways that AR can function. So either through a web app, which is what we used, or through like an enclosed app, and see which one would work for you. And in our case, certainly find the right people to partner with who can speak the language and can is willing to go on the journey with you.
Awesome. Or just reach out to Iain.
Yeah, certainly.
You're the expert now.
Yeah.
And how excited were the summer students to work on a project like this, also to actually have work?
Oh my gosh. Yeah. Well, we were so lucky. Our ghost tour guides really became a little family. They loved the show. They really believed in the project. The opportunity to perform all summer was a really great, exciting opportunity for them. Yeah, certainly after so many months of not being able to do that, I think that was hugely, hugely valuable. And if you have something to believe in and they are willing to dive in and believe in it too, it just makes, for such a wonderful experience. And also, I mean, they are their own creative agents. And I really wanted to make sure that they felt that they had as much creative say over the tour as I did, right? In terms of who the characters are, what the story is, that sort of thing. So even just the beginning of the summer versus the end of the summer, they were always evolving it and refining it and that kind of thing. And that was just amazing to watch.
That's great. And you talk about the characters. Kathleen, can you give us a little tip that you learned about characters and namesakes for ghost tours?
We tried to start out with a First Nations person because of course they were in Barrie first, and so I had their story, and then we had a story of someone in the late 1800s who came over by a ship, and of course Barrie was a port and a trading post, and so it kind of went through all those stories. We had some historic buildings. So it was actually interesting because you were facing a historic building. For instance, I can't remember the name of that. I know it's Tibbs Bar. That's so terrible because you go there when it was Tibbs. And so,
the Clarkson Hotel.
Yeah, the Clarkson
Artisan
Hotel.
Boutique.
Thank you. Yes,
no problem.
over 100 years old. So the ghost, you're looking at the Clarkson Hotel and the ghost is coming out of there. So that was interesting. And then of course you head up to the McLaren, which is a Carnegie library. And so it was important that you had landmarks in the city and you move people around. So it was part of a historic and also moving people around Barrie had to have those elements in it too. But,
and what about using real names, Kathleen?
What's that?
Real people's names.
Well, we actually had a huge mistake. We ran a tour and we used real people's names, and some of the relatives came back and said, we're not really happy with you using their names and depicting them as that, and you're not really allowed. And we're like, oops. So they definitely need to be made up unless you have strict permission from the relatives, because that was a little of a faux pas. We had a ghost tour in a cemetery, and that it was fun, but that we had to make many apologies. So
that's a lesson to everyone on here: make up the names.
Well, unless you have permission, or or it's a generalization of a bunch of different people that are there's different ways that you can do it. And certainly it was a conversation we had a lot when we were writing the show, right? I mean, none of the there were a lot of fictional characters, and for the most part, they spoke to something more universal than just their particular story. And that I found was a nice way to kind of skirt around that. And also, I mean, another way to kind of do it is just to go through the history books and find people that have already been written extensively about, and then it's like, oh, okay, people can talk about this person. It's okay.
And Iain, what was it like to take your theater experience to the streets?
Well, I mean, it was quite the summer for that, let me say. A lot of rain this summer, a lot of if it wasn't raining, it was crazily hot. So like there was a lot of so that obviously, like any outdoor theater, like any outdoor event, you're subject to the weather, and certainly we felt that a lot this year. And also, downtown Barrie can get a little rowdy at night. So sometimes we ran into some colorful characters, shall we say. But also, of course, watching people watch us go down the street, and you saw this a little bit in the video, but our tour guide was sort of the sort of mad scientist, lab in their basement kind of character. So they were walking around with basically a tinfoil hat and stuff, and people from the patios yelling like, "Who are you gonna call?" and that sort of thing. Added a lot of flavor to the show, and it was quite fun. So a lot of interesting moments throughout the summer, to be sure.
So that's a neat piece, engaging the community that's not a part of the tour. That's something very unique to the theater experience, right? Normally we all just kind of sit in the theater, we watch it. That was kind of neat. Did you get a lot of questions? Were people trying to be like, hey, what's going on?
Oh, yeah. All the time. I mean, like the final leg of the tour goes from the 5 Points intersection down Dunlop Street, which is Barrie's main street, to Memorial Square, which is our big public square in the downtown. And all the time we'd get questions, or, as we were going by the McLaren, people slowing down their cars, being like, what's going on here? What are you guys up to? And stuff. And the actors having to sort of stay in character and be like, we're looking for ghosts. And, like that kind of thing was quite fun and quite charming, to be sure.
That's great. And Kathleen, what kind of value does that bring to tourism Barrie? Again, touring the streets of Barrie with this great production that you sponsored. What kind of values in that as a DMO and for the city?
Well, that's a huge value, right? Because the opportunity to showcase your city and all its main attractions in the downtown and move people around. And that was the whole point, is to get people into the downtown, and then strategically so that they either have dinner before or after, or they were always, I went with a girlfriend, so we went and had beers afterwards. So that kind of thing. So I think that inviting I don't know if anyone went by themselves. Most people, when we were at the tours, everyone had a friend or relative, so that the whole point was that economic impact, and have it strategically in those hours so that you are going to eat afterwards or enjoy. And maybe you're walking by one of the retailers and see, oh, that's a nice dress in the window, I should go in there. So the whole point is to get people in the downtown looking at all the other stores, so that there's a extra added value, economic impact to driving people into your downtown core. So that was important.
That's great.
Yeah.
And Iain, how many people per tour? What was your capacity? And was that affected with numbers due to the COVID restrictions?
Yes, they were certainly impacted for sure. I mean, we were subject to whatever the rules were at the time, and it was a long summer, so those kept changing. So I think like for a while it was 8, and then it was, but also we wanted to make sure that the audiences had an intimate experience. So even when we could have 20 something, we stuck to 12-ish, because when you're walking around a large portion of land, it can sometimes be like herding cats from one stop to the next. So a nice concise group, going from one stop to the other really added to the experience. It also meant that the audiences could enjoy like chatting with the actors in character along the way and asking questions and stuff. So it was all part of this intimate experience. But yeah, 8 to 12, I think we had a couple, there were 1 or 2 exceptions, but for the most part, we tried to cap out at 12 people.
And what was the cost?
$25.
That's a great
cost. Yeah, $25 a ticket, which is quite reasonable for a theater show. Yeah.
Yeah. And did that cost, again, reflect having some sponsorship? Would it have had to been more of a cost to obviously cover and produce that?
That's a really good question. That's a good question. I mean, probably. Yeah. I don't know. We knew from the beginning. We knew from the beginning for sure. But yeah.
Iain, did you have any other corporate sponsors? This question is coming from Gilbert. Did you have any other corporate sponsors to help fund the initiative beyond government/tourism funding?
Hey, Fan Expo. I love Fan Expo. Yeah, of course. Yeah. So Theatre by the Bay, we are a not-for-profit charity organization. So we rely heavily on donations and sponsorships. So we had several, from groups like the Downtown BIA to banks to businesses to trusts, everything in between.
And Kathleen has a comment.
Yeah, I think that was what's also important. Why Tourism Barrie sponsored the seed money really to explore this is because we took the risk to do that, where a lot of sponsors may not want to do the seed money. They want to see what does it look like afterwards. Everybody knows that the second year you always make more money. So that was also, I think, important, and for why a tourist office needs to invest in some of their product development is to give them that leg up. And then the whole point was so that Theatre by the Bay could go out and find other sponsors. And you want to make it sustainable so that next year they can get more sponsors and, keep the tours going. So, that was part of the mandate as well, and kind of something I believe should be done by.
If I can just double down on that, that was absolutely the case. Once we were able to say Tourism Barrie is a sponsor, is a partner on this thing, it opened all sorts of doors. It wasn't just some theater company trying some crazy project that they had no track record in. It was like, no, this is a real thing. We've got, a really reputable large-scale organization in our community that is supporting it, really helped open a lot of doors for us. So yeah, we are really grateful to Tourism Barrie for trusting us like that.
So question from Kyle Sipkins, who's actually, you might have seen him from in Cirque in the stilts walking down at Open Air Dunlop.
Ah, cool. Okay.
That's Kyle. Hi. So Kyle, meet the crew. Everyone knows him. Question, usually theater is put your cell phone away experience. Do Kathleen or Iain see AR being utilized in future productions, activations with their organizations? Will it become potentially become a new part of how audience experience art in Barrie, or will it become a ghost of the pandemic era? I had to
I mean, as I sort of said, Kyle, like the possibilities are as limitless as your imagination. I mean, I would love, for instance, if while the audience is sitting in their chairs, you could get like a 3D render of the set, or like the set designer come out and be like, hey, look at my stage. This was my concept, that kind of thing. There's all sorts of possibilities with it. I mean, AR as well it's something that a lot of people think is restricted to their phones, but also there's augmented reality glasses and stuff. And I think the possibilities for that is huge. Like another great organization in our community called Talk is Free Theater, they're doing a pilot project where they're providing audiences with AR glasses so that way they can have subtitles on the screen of what's being said, so that way they can do multilingual performances. Which I think is just mind-boggling and so original and inventive. But certainly, also there is a move in theater or in live performances, as you likely know, to have projected sets and stuff like that. So how about a whole additional level of projected things like weather, or like all sorts of possibilities all through the AR glasses? The possibilities are limitless. And I think we're just at the cusp of that revolution that will only become more accessible and accepted in the years to come.
Yeah, I just have to add, we did have the conversation if they had augmented glass, like that you would get run over by a car. So, that, so we actually talked about that. I had to call the insurance company because we're a sponsor, and we're like, what if we get sued? Because someone ran into a car. So
minor technicality
was a clever way to use augmented reality and everyone not have glasses on. So, you have to also remember they're walking around town. And so how do you keep everyone safe? So
keep glasses in the theater and not on the streets is the
So I think AR. I mean, look at Mark Zuckerberg with Facebook. He's doing the AR and that whole thing. So my kid knows that, and I think to get the younger people interested in theater and modernizing it to different experiences is really important. So you bring new audience capacity in, and so you got to attract the 18, 20-year-olds.
Accessibility now to theater, if you can do closed captioning and stuff, that's just incredible. And I have to say, as we were at the beginning of this pandemic and we were talking, there was obviously, a lot of sadness, a lot of questions about the future, our industry, but seeing this passion and seeing you ignite after that question was asked by Kyle, Iain, pandemic downside, yes, world closes, all of that. Pandemic upside, did it force you to even become more creative than you are and to think about these additional ideas?
Well, I appreciate that. I mean, theater is probably our most resilient art form. It has been around forever. And that's because whenever we've run into new technologies, challenges, hurdles, whatever, we've always found ways to adapt and keep ourselves, relevant. So and stuff like this just makes me really excited. It's just, so much potential.
And you always have had that great personality, talking about collaborations and reconnecting. Actually, how I met Iain was at his first Tourism Awards event. Right. And I became his first friend in Barrie that I didn't know until years later. Iain and I had multiple conversations actually during the pandemic about ideas, where he would go. Kathleen and I the same. And it just shows how important a network and relationships are. And for example, this Festivals and Events Ontario, how they're bringing us together, that the platform that we're speaking on right now was created as a result, Tuesday Talks, of the pandemic. So good things always come out. One thing I want to ask you, Kathleen, is you had talked about loving ghost tours so much, and I do remember you always told me, how exciting was it for you to help bring something to life in your town that you do a wonderful job of marketing and representing? How did it feel for you to be a part of bringing that to life?
Well, I mean, that's super exciting. That's one of the great parts about my job and what I love, those are the fun things of the job. So, bringing an idea and seeing it go to fruition and have a life of its own and connecting with creative people was very exciting. And that's, the great part of the job. And I'm thrilled. I'm really happy because I think Michael White, who helped video some of it, and I've been friends for like 10 years or something or more. And we were having coffee one day and I kind of brainstormed how I want to bring ghost tours to Barrie. And we actually had Glenn from the Haunted Tours come and do a guest speaker at a conference we were doing. So, and I was mulling around in my head for like 5 years. So it's like super happy that it's, come to life.
That's so great. I'm so excited to see this happen. How long did the production run, Iain?
It ran from the beginning of July to the end of August.
Oh, so yeah, so right summer. In the rainy, hot weather.
Yep.
Us event people are very resilient and probably check the weather app more than any other people.
Yeah.
And
every day it was like, oh God, are the shows going to happen at all? Who knows? Yeah.
Yeah, especially with phones out.
Yeah, exactly.
And how were the guests on the tour at understanding their augmented reality and using their phone? Was it good? Was it a fairly seamless process? Was there an instruction email that went out?
There was certainly a lot of instruction that needed to happen. I mean, it's very new, and I think it's very not confusing, but there isn't a barrier there because people are like, will my phone work? What's gonna, unlike, for instance, if it was the glasses where it was like, show up, you get your glasses or whatever. So yeah, there was certainly a learning curve that needed to happen. We created some instructional videos that we posted on our YouTube channel and on our Facebook page and stuff to sort of help and send to people. So there was certainly a challenge to it.
You had chargers? You had portable chargers?
Oh yeah, we had to have, oh yeah.
Oh yeah.
So one of the things we discovered was that for certain phones, the AR drains your battery. Like drains it. So we ended up having to buy multiple portable chargers. That way we could bring them along to help people. The selfie sticks we had to source, and they had to be ones that could do vertical, not just horizontal, because the ghosts are all presented vertically. Like there was a lot of learning for us as well. But yeah, it was certainly a little bit of a challenge. And then also I think just even though it was probably one of the safest outdoor things you could do, there was still a lot of trepidation, I think, about, just gathering in groups or anything like that. So, yeah.
So we have something here again, the AR and doing that. Debbie just wrote that we were going to use AR to highlight sponsors at our conference, enhance visibility for a marketplace, and they're looking for other ideas again to enhance sponsor. So,
well, I mean, yeah, it would sort of depend. Like, I don't know. Like, AR is a very visual medium, so like in terms of AR in sponsors, like, I don't know, a pop-up, a flying logo. I don't know what exactly that would necessarily look like. But yeah, I mean, again, there's all sorts of possibilities. I mean, as on like the biggest scale example, I think Coca-Cola had like a $10 million augmented reality project where, like, at a Disney World or something, where they had like a train fly across the screen and like do all this stuff. So yeah, there's lots of possibilities for sure. In terms of like our sponsorship recognition, at the end of the tour, there was a little pop-up that had a bunch of links, kind of like a link tree sort of thing, that had all these sorts of links to different resources and different, like, so Tourism Barrie was on there, the show program was on there, that kind of thing.
Was there a question again from Kyle? Was there a surprising takeaway or learning for you about the power of theater in public spaces and outside of a closed theater venue?
Well, I mean, we actually have a track record of having done several outdoor shows already. Like we've even done a walking tour show. Was there a surprise? I don't know. I mean,
I
I
wanted
don't
to
know if
say
this
you at that time and surprise you myself.
I mean, like in terms of surprises, I mean, the closest I'd say is like the delight of people seeing live theater and being like excited about it, because I think for in a lot of cases people perceive theater as something that's rather elitist and inaccessible to most people these days. So having theater happen on one's street, like in their downtown at their public square, that it was lightweight and fun, and all these people standing around with their phones on selfie sticks, and it all be very engaging. I think was like seeing people's reactions to that was quite delightful.
Yeah, I mean, I think the only challenge, and we've thought about this before because I actually used to sit on Theater by the Bay's board, and so when you're looking at the challenge you have is people joining your group that haven't paid. And so that's not really a surprise, but it's a strategy. So if you are going to do outdoor, like how do you kindly say, I'm sorry, you got to pay for this. This is a closed thing. So, it's not a surprise, but you would be surprised how many people just tag on and start walking with you thinking they can just join in. So, yeah.
Tag alongers. Kyle says buskers have strategies for those who tag along.
Indeed. I mean, that's part of the reason. That was honestly part of the reasons we did teams of two, right? So the tour, there was the main tour guide character, and then there was sort of an auxiliary, like City of Barrie representative character, and that secondary character also served as kind of like the way that the person who would go around and talk to people while the audience was engaged in the ghost story happening on their phones in front of them. So they had like flyers, they had a clipboard, they'd like go up to people and like talk to them and that sort of thing. And then, and if people were trying to follow along, not that they could see anything beyond if they were like sneaking up behind someone and watching on their phone or whatever, they were there to sort of assist in terms of audience management, shall we say.
I actually walked into the middle of one of your walking tours before. The one that did along the rail trail there. I was like, the corner, and I was like, a deer in a headlight. I'm like, what happened? Did I go back in time? And I was with my car and a stroller and anyway. I left though. I didn't be a hanger-oner. So, but it was neat, and that's how I think I found out more about Theater by the Bay, because of course I saw it. So then you go back and you're like, Googling whatever you think you could. I think a great comment by Kyle is, again, you're connecting with new audiences who may not normally think to go to the theater, and that's great. Did you find that any of the people who saw it ended up booking? Anyone that off the street?
Oh yeah, absolutely. No doubt. I'm sure there was a lot of turnover. Yeah.
Yeah. And again, Iain, we do have a question, and this was what I wanted to bring out. Mike Miller asked, after this first tour, what's the plans going forward for Theater by the Bay? So we can talk, is Ghost Tours Watchers coming back next year? And also, why don't you let them know what you have in the works as well? What's up next for Theater by the Bay?
I'd be delighted. Thank you. Yeah. So we're looking at a limited run in October of this year to sort of tie in with Halloween and ghosts and stuff like that. And based on how that goes, I think we'll probably bring it back next year as well for another October run, just to kind of see if that works with people. Certainly as well, we're looking at the summer. So we're keeping our options open right now. There's a few other things that we're looking into developing to add to the Tourism Barrie downtown portfolio. So for instance, we're next year, all things considered, we're going to launch a new play festival, sort of in the style of a Fringe or a Summer Works, which currently doesn't exist in Barrie. We've, all that kind of stuff. So we're not done with the Ghost Watchers by any means. We've got a couple ideas. And also now that we have one, as Kathleen alluded, like now that we have 1 year under our belt, we want to see what that second year looks like. And hopefully in more of a normal summertime, shall we say? Because trying to come to conclusions based on how this summer went is impossible. Like it's like how do you make sense of what this summer was? So we definitely want to give it another life and see what that offers and how that assists.
Definitely nobody is making sense of this summer.
No, exactly. So, and then in terms of other stuff, Theatre by the Bay typically produces 2 to 3 shows a year. We actually have a more traditional theater show launching at the end of this week called Minnow Bamadziwin, which is all about Indigenous experiences in the area. It's a new work that's happening at the Aurelia Opera House. theatrebythebay.com/MNO for tickets and information. And then in the fall, we'll be announcing our 2022 season.
So stay tuned.
Stay tuned for that. Absolutely.
And one of the things, Iain, that I'd like to mention, aside from this great sponsorship and product development from Tourism Barrie, how vital is your relationship with Tourism Barrie on an ongoing relationship prior to creating this product?
Well, I mean, I don't know, Kathleen can probably speak more to this, but I certainly felt like we've always had a really good relationship. I mean,
no, but how important is it for you to be a partner with them? Like
it's hugely important. Yeah, for sure. I mean, like theater is that like arts and culture are really at the intersection of a lot of things that municipalities care about, right? Downtown development, tourism, all these kind like mental health, like youth engagement, like, and all this kind of stuff. So yeah, like relationships, like keeping good relationships with groups like Tourism Barrie is hugely important. And there's such a great synergy because when we do well, they get to say, look at this amazing thing that's happening, and vice versa, so it's great.
And just to add to that, as tourism is always connected to your economic development, and so as part of the strategy with your municipality about creative economy and bringing more culture into your downtown. So if your municipality or your city that's important to them and part of their strategy, and then part of their strategy, then the onus also is on Tourism Barrie to support what your city wants you to do, and by having relationships with your theater companies, et cetera, is important because you're meeting those criterias of what your municipality's expectations are.
Absolutely.
And so, Kathleen, I talked a bit about this with Debbie. If you're a member of an organization like Tourism Barrie, Festivals and Events Ontario, don't just be a member, right? Get involved, be active, communicate with them because they're there to help. So what advice do you have, Kathleen, for people who are maybe members, again, of organizations like Festivals and Events or Tourism Barrie that are just members and don't really engage? What advice do you have for them?
Well, I mean, I think my personal belief is I think any municipality that has a destination marketing fee or a municipal accommodation tax, I mean, that tax, 50% goes to your city, if that's how they legislate it, and to your DMO. So I think for us, it's very important that money stays in tourism, and that money goes to fuel tourism, and that money goes to product development. It goes to assisting other elements in your municipality that is part of the ecosystem of tourism. And so, to be a member, it's important, but you should get involved and almost, demand, if you will, that some of that money goes towards the mandate of what is meant to be for tourism. So, our feeling is that, you don't want the tax of 50% that goes to municipalities going to roads and sewers. We want it to go to tourism. So by getting involved with your tourism and almost asking them to, create these kind of stories or create this kind of product and use that money towards that will grow your tourism, I think is really important. And I think the onus is on everybody to make sure their tourist offices and their investments and, economic development, et cetera, are moving in that same way, in that same direction. So yeah, it's important.
Well, thank you so much, both Iain and Kathleen. We are going to now, again, we've had questions throughout, but open up the last few minutes here to a question. Iain, when you were speaking about your upcoming events, Debbie asked theater in the park, like Shakespeare in the Park that was in Toronto?
Well, that's how we started, actually. So Theater by the Bay literally started as, a white tent by the waterfront doing Shakespeare. And over time, the mandate, the organization really evolved and ultimately, and now works under the mandate of, telling local stories and empowering the local arts community. But yeah, that's how we started. And in fact, a lot of people, especially when the news that Stratford was and Shaw were going to do shows under big tents on their properties, the question did come up if whether we were going to do something like that. And that seemed like insane and not really what I was interested in. And ultimately we ended up going with the Ghost Watchers, and all this happened. So, but yeah, that's how we started. And, certainly there's a place for that in the arts ecosystem, but it's not us.
So, and regrets as president of Tourism Barrie that I didn't get to attend. So sign me up for October.
You got it. I'm holding you to it.
I might even wear a costume.
Perfect. That's a good idea, actually. That's a good idea.
It is a good idea. People should dress. Does anybody have any other questions for Kathleen, Iain? Iain, I just think it's so great to see such a leader in the community. What was it like for you? I know you have also been successful in some grant writing and things like that. How much of a learning curve was that for you? And was there anything that you were awarded this year?
In terms of grant writing?
Yeah,
we've been very, very fortunate. Yeah. Well, I mean, our mandate is really strong, and I think it's very attractive to a lot of the granting bodies in terms of local engagement, local empowerment, connecting people with the arts, that sort of thing. Just as things were locking down in 2020, we received a $370,000 Trillium grant to support our education opportunities. And that just turned into a lot of digital learning and stuff like that. But that was, at the very least, I mean, it was so difficult for theater companies when the pandemic first, and the arts more generally, when the pandemic started. But at least we knew that we had money in the bank and money on its way. That was a big de-stressor, shall we say. So we've been very fortunate with that. And then later on in 2020, we also received a $116,000 Trillium grant to do digital theatrical experiences. So it didn't actually fund the Ghost Watchers per se, but it did allow us to do like filmed theatrical experiences that we streamed, and to really increase the quality of our media overall through the purchase of new equipment and stuff like that. So we were very, very fortunate.
And that's great. And this goes for this question would be for both Kathleen and Iain. From Anja, she asked, did people who attend the ghost tours post their experiences on social media actively to promote the theater and Barrie? And what was any of their other further interactions that you noticed that came out of this?
That's a really good question. Thank you for that, Anja. Lots of people did, especially those who knew people in the show. I found they're like, "Oh my God, it's Dave, but he's a ghost!" Like that was so. So we got a lot of that. We didn't have like a centralized hashtag or anything, but certainly we were tagged a lot on our Instagram and our social media about that, and we did see a large spike in our following. Through our social media channels. So people, once they saw the show, they signed up and continue to follow us. And it brought in new people as well. I will admit, I think our post-show strategy wasn't as strong as our pre-show in terms of marketing and promotion, and that's certainly something we can work on in the future. But we did see some positive benefits come from that.
And Kathleen, did you see engagement for the Ghost Watchers?
Yes. And also, it was a difficult time because we were on lockdown and you weren't allowed to market Barrie to outside the community. So we did have direction from our city not to do that. So you're limited to this more hyper local, what they're calling a hyper regional. But so that also is a challenge for a destination marketing organization to say, I'm sorry, you can't market.
Wait, what?
Yeah.
Don't come here, but if you are here, check this out.
And you don't want to offend people by saying don't come here because it's really open. So Iain, a learning point from that, would you then have a centralized hashtag next time?
Yeah, but there's a few things I think we would do differently. In theater, there's a term called a post-mortem, which is when after a show closes, everyone gets together and talks about the experience and lessons learned and stuff. And just because of everyone's scheduling, we actually have it scheduled for next week, which is when we'll do a big debrief amongst our team about what worked, what didn't work. But I think, in terms of like, how do we encourage people who saw the show to talk about it through their social media and stuff will certainly be an area that we will be exploring, be it a centralized hashtag or whatever else.
So how valuable are those postmortem conversations to any event or production?
It's probably second to seeing the show go up. It's the most important thing because theater is a team sport. It really is. It's a team group activity. And postmortems are the chance to like let out a lot of stuff if there's stuff that needs to be talked about. Right. And when you're talking about
a pun intended, as Mike did.
Mike said,
yes, indeed. Yes. Yes, indeed. Postmortem. Yes. But yeah, they're really, really important. And because hopefully everyone had a great time, and often people do. But if in cases where there's just something that needs to get off people's chest before they can move on to their future projects, it's that opportunity to do it.
So we only have a few minutes left. Let's start with you, Kathleen. Just a quick message just about how important it is to reconnect and stay connected with our community. As we know, tourism connects us. Do you have anything just to share with that, or any advice as well?
Definitely. I think we definitely have to reconnect, and I think we need to tweak some things. I don't know if the pandemic is completely over or people are more skeptical, especially, it's not to generalize, but theater sometimes is an older population, especially with the enclosed theater, and attending theater tends to be a little mature, and their apprehension to go back to theater, et cetera. So I think it's really important to reconnect and everyone have the same message and safety and same with innovating on how you do something different. So I think it's really important to reconnect, because I think everybody has different stories and different advice and different experiences that we could come together to create like one better experience for everybody. I definitely think you need to reconnect.
And you guys are getting so many congratulations here about the innovation, the collaboration, the enthusiasm, which is why, again, I asked you to join, because I was so proud of this initiative. From hearing the idea to see it coming to life was really exciting. So just quickly, Iain, again, give everybody your thoughts on reconnecting, connecting, and collaboration.
Well, as I said, theater is a team sport, and that doesn't have to be just with the artists in the show, right? It's a community, and with a group like Theater by the Bay that is so community focused, connecting with groups in the area, connecting with people who have, resources, who have connections of their own. That's the way that the magic happens. And so, arts groups, the arts community is very resilient. It's very innovative, and they're often very down to collaborate. So look into your own communities, find people who are doing cool stuff and reach out to them. And I'm sure they'd be delighted by the chance to throw around some ideas, just as we were with Tourism Barrie. And we will always be so grateful to Kathleen and the whole team for this shot.
Awesome. Thank you so much for taking time out of your schedules to join us today. Collaboration truly is the key to success, and working with your partners and sharing knowledge. It's not a competition. If we work together, it's the better for everyone. I'm seeing messages here, a great reason to visit Barrie. So we will make sure that we email out the October one. If we're not in lockdown and we're allowed to let people, we would love to have you come visit us. Thanks for reconnecting. Thank you, Debbie and Jay, for organizing this, bringing it together, and giving me the opportunity to bring into some people who inspire me on a daily basis, who have also supported me in my tourism career and journey. I'm grateful to both of you, to everyone for attending. Kyle, can you wave and do something fun over there? Come on, show us who you are, Kyle.
I didn't bring my camera. Wait, hold on, coming in.
Oh, yeah, there we go. Here we go.
There we go.
All right, so here's Kyle. And next Tuesday, you can join Kyle. As you can see, I gave him a demand and he got a supply. But we're reversing that. Kyle is hosting on Tuesday, September 28th, Supply and Demand. And Kyle, do you want to tell us who your 3 guests are next week?
Yeah, so we have Brant Matthews from Dispatch Talent. We've also got, Jeff Palermo and Ryan. Oh my gosh, I forgot his last name. But we have people talking about AV solutions. We have people talking about fireworks and drones. So the real focus of this is, you may have worked with suppliers for a number of years, but how has the pandemic affected their business, and how will running your festival be affected by trying to bring in your suppliers, especially on maybe a short lead time? Maybe you're trying to get your festival up fast. So it's a really great panel discussion that we'll have every month, just like this Reconnect session, to find out what's changed with your suppliers and what you need to know when you're reaching out and getting that conversation started.
Yay. So everyone, make sure you tune in to see Kyle, because he is awesome, and we connected and just met through this pandemic. And now we're hosting our own little FEO shows. Thank you guys so much for attending. We're really, really grateful. Again, reconnect with your tourism operators, share. The collaboration and the rebound is going to take a long time, but with people like all of you in our corner, it's going to come back together. So thank you, reconnect, and make sure with your festivals you aim high and go higher.